Ready, we ready then? We're all set?
1 second, it's
Okay.
loading. Okay. I don't know if we wanted to introduce our new board member officially.
Oh, yes, he is here.
Yeah.
Mr. Venning.
Hi, sorry, my Zoom still says city comptroller. I think I have to change it before I log into Zoom. But I am Todd Venning, the new city manager.
Welcome. I'm so glad you made it.
Thank you.
Welcome, Todd.
All righty. Todd, yeah. Okay, let's move on to the financial report.
Open that. So everyone, I assume, received the report for May. Again, not a lot to report on. Usual expenses. Get to the right page. So for the month of May, we utilized 323,000 of the enterprise grant money. That was the main or only source of income. You know, we just had the usual expenses and
Get down. No, Nana's papers.
completed the month at 342,000 net income.
Oh, it's good to be on the plus side.
Yeah, technically we are.
Any questions or comments about our money situation? All righty, can I have a motion to approve financial report?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kevin. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion's carried. Next order of business is, the updated budget.
Yeah, so, oh, David didn't get, I just got a message from David. He didn't get the
New link.
the meeting materials.
Oh, darn.
There's Susan is joining.
Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I'm just trying to forward information to one of the board members.
Stop. No.
Well, we can hold off on that topic and move to
All right,
the next.
we can go right into Susan.
Yeah.
Susan, you want to introduce yourself to everybody again? And
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Weinrich. I work with the New York Council of Nonprofits. I've been at Nikon for about 18 years. And I had the opportunity to work with the land bank about 4 or 5 years ago on your previous strategic plan. And so I think what we wanted to do today was just kind of launch your process. I've been talking to Jen, over the last couple of months, and I think, it would just be good I can give you an overview of the sort of, planning framework and process that we've laid out thus far, but there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to move forward with it. And then I think it might just be helpful for you to give me a little bit of your thoughts about some of the key strategic issues that you want to make sure that we address. So I think we only have about 15 minutes. So, just kind of quickly move through that process. Does that make sense in terms of your time and agenda for today?
Does for me.
Okay, great, thank you. So I think, in terms of the process, we built in a series of planning meetings with leadership. What I think we did last time was set that up with the planning committee or the executive committee. And so we can have, over the course of the process, working with that committee to develop the issues, the questions. We thought we would do a strategic planning survey with both the board and the staff to get some input and feedback on what your thoughts are, for the priorities for the land bank, over the next 3 years or so. And then we also built in some staff planning sessions so that we can do a deeper dive into some of the action planning. And then really working with you on developing and, writing the plan. And then if and as necessary, helping around some implementation support, whatever that looks like. That could be anything from, bylaw revisions to developing a fundraising plan to, some board development, whatever you think might be needed. Does that make sense? I mean, what we thought we would try to do is, use the survey to engage all of you and then establish a smaller group so that those of you who wanted to do the working deeper dive can be involved in those planning sessions. And the planning sessions can be a series of short sessions, or we can have the one, half day or full day, retreat, all of us together. So there's a lot of flexibility.
Gotcha.
And then in terms of, the key issues and just helping me understand, what your sort of focus is, what your challenges are. I mean, Jen certainly has walked me through some of the, shared with me some of the changes in the city in terms of, their housing sort of plan. And then also just some of the issues and challenges around financial issues that you've been facing and the uncertainty, right, in terms of what's going to come out, potential opportunities moving forward. So I just wanted to get your sense of what do you think are the key strategic issues or questions that we want to focus on as part of the planning process?
Okay, who wants to speak first? Anybody have any strong feelings about where we want to start or where we are at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. Jen and I had a quick meeting today, and one of the issues that came up is that the land bank has historically, used property that was taken in rem for tax foreclosure in the city of Newburgh. And we are good news, we're taking a lot less properties, but bad news means that we don't have this anywhere near the level of properties to transfer to the land bank that we have in the past. So,
Right.
A land bank needs land. So, where we go with land development and project development.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like you said, we're running short and we've got plans for almost everything we have. And there's really not a lot coming down the pike.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's a big issue. I think something that's concerning me this whole year has been, we haven't had a whole lot of purpose, and it's been very difficult to keep everybody in the loop about what's going on and how we can involve all the board members on a regular basis. Because I think board members need to be invested in order to keep this project going. So I think we need to look at how to get the board invested without requiring, an inordinate amount of time from each of you.
Mhm. So kind of what is an efficient and effective, sort of board structure and process looks like.
Yes.
To add to that, Lisa, maybe a board orientation for new board members that come on board, just to give them the history of the land bank and what our future goals are and what we have accomplished. And I think an orientation to new board members will be helpful.
Excellent. And we certainly have the materials available to do that without, too much work. But I think that's a great idea. I think the culture of the land bank is important. Why we started, where we are, what our intent is, who we are and who we are not, is important. And
Right.
along those lines, I'd like to see more active board development in that, bringing on new members of the board. We talk about, well, we'd like somebody who has this kind of background or somebody, and we just never
Mhm.
quite get there. So I think we need to actively identify, we need this kind of person, and try to really recruit a person, that would work with our board.
Programmatically, you're probably, not unlike many other communities where there are land banks, although I would say that probably given the influx of people and the sort of, current push towards gentrification and development in Newburgh, it might be happening at a faster pace. Are there other models of land banks or other strategies that you have wondered about or would like to explore that are appropriate for your organization as a land bank?
Cool. I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that, we may need to redefine ourselves a little bit, or at least, what I want to say, dig down a little bit to see what we are now and do we want to change and how would that happen, especially when it comes to procurement of properties and partners and things like that.
Mhm. Does anybody else have any thoughts or issues or questions or things just you want to throw out about that you're wondering about that we just want to make sure to address as part of the planning process?
Yeah, I think that there's no idea that can't be tossed around. Don't think that, oh, is this part of planning? Is it not part of planning? Just an idea of something that you've been toying with in your mind, a concern you have about the direction of the board, anything like that. No, I'm not hearing anybody.
Just to chime in, my concerns have been expressed. It is, as you mentioned, Susan, with the gentrification of Newburgh, what the impact of that is on current residents, that's a concern. And then looking at the inventory of vacant properties, what does the future hold for the land bank? And, does that decrease its role? Should it expand its role? Look at other ways it can be impactful in the community. I think all of those things should be discussed.
Yes, because from the beginning, since our inception, we've talked about, is this going to be a permanent fixture in the Newburgh market, or are we going to work our way out of business? You know, exactly what's happening. And it'd be nice to say, oh no, we've met all the needs of everybody in the city of Newburgh. So maybe we aren't going to go out of business.
Are there other land banks that did go out of business, successfully out of business, I should say? Do we know of any histories of other land banks?
Jen, have you heard of something like that?
No, but that doesn't mean that that's not the case. I mean, certainly not in New York yet.
Right.
You know, because we're such a newer thing here. But it's possible.
What I was getting at is just curious to see if there is one, or how many there are, but you know, what they developed as a new role, a new scope for themselves, if they did
Yes.
turn into something, if they did turn into something else.
Yeah, I can imagine morphing into something else depending on the needs.
Right.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge is the specific legislation for land banks versus, you know, being a nonprofit, you know, as an organization, you can be a little more fluid, whereas because of the regulatory issues, you might be a little bit more restricted. But I guess what it sounds like that it would be helpful for us to work on collecting some ideas and models about what has worked in other organizations, other communities, land banks, you know, and exploring those as possibilities. You know, I think not only are you going to be competing in the marketplace with private individuals and private developers, right? But you're competing with other housing-based organizations for the similar issues, similar properties. And so looking at what those options might be for you and the possibilities down the road might, you know, I think makes sense.
Yeah, and it's I think this is sort of off the topic, but we need a coordination among all the groups that are functioning here in at least in the city of Newburgh, so that we aren't working at cross purposes or, you know, stealing each other's thunder.
Mhm.
But I think, I don't know, with the Distressed Properties Task Force or our new, whatever our new name is, whether we need to, you know, get behind that and support that as a leader or just a member, and see what people, what's going on with all different kinds of groups.
Yeah, thank you. Are there other, like, as part of this process, is there other information that you feel needs to be collected from the community, the stakeholders? You know, is there outside of the organization information and data that would help you as you think about planning for the future?
I think the study that Kevin Dworka et al. Have gotten together is really going to be helpful.
Yeah,
I really need to
we
study
can
that.
parse that, certainly. Okay. So what I would suggest perhaps is, and I don't know whether you've talked about this, if you want to set up like a working committee, a strategic planning committee, people who might be interested in meeting, you know, a few times over the next couple of months to lead the process and help drive it. And then we can kind of meet to, you know, to plan it out in a more tangible way. Does that make sense? Do you think that's feasible?
I can be available for part of that, depending on meeting times and dates.
Yeah, we would absolutely work around the availability of committee members. So we can put together doodle polls or, you know, whatever works for you all.
Anybody else want to volunteer?
Yes, I think we should reach out to other board members that aren't on the call just to get their opinion, or if they want to join as well. Obviously, we don't want to leave anybody out.
Definitely.
Anything I can do to help, let me know.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, well, we can follow up. I understand. So Jen and I were going to kind of put our heads together when she gets back from vacation about just laying some things out, looking at some information, maybe identifying some resources that we want to explore further. And then maybe, we can work on pulling together that committee meeting and kind of launching your planning process.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I would just add, just in terms of like community engagement, like I think the Leviticus report is excellent. There's a lot of great data in there that can really guide us. But if there is a way to do some, real community engagement with people in the neighborhood or people citywide, I think that would be helpful. And just involve them in the process. Especially when it comes to like, future role of the land bank and what people would like to see.
Yeah, I'd love to get input.
Is that from residents? Or do you think that there are, others types of stakeholders that you would want to involve?
Well, I was thinking residents primarily, but
Mhm.
could involve others that are involved in development or,
Yeah.
business owners, I don't know, other stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Susan, I think the comment you made about not competing with other, not-for-profit developers, I think rang true with me. And so maybe having a stakeholder group that involved those doing not-for-profit development in Newburgh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could even, like the land use center that's been involved in the past with our development, and Kevin Dworka, who has a lot of ideas. I mean, even not necessarily officially involving him, but getting input.
Sure.
And, people that have been engaged in those types of planning processes for the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Sounds good to your little one too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all for your input and time. If anything comes up, please feel free to send it to Jen and she can forward it on to me. But otherwise, looks like, maybe we can try to reconvene sometime in July or you can tell me what the process is, the timeline is on your side, and we can go from there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great meeting and a wonderful day.
Thank
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Alrighty.
So David is not going to be able to join us
Darn.
anyway.
Okay. Do you want to look at the budget? Go back to the budget for 22?
Sure. I've sent yet another updated version of the budget. It's kind of in a little bit of a evolving thing as we've kind of gotten more information. So, as part of as a public authority, we had to submit our budget in March, which, get a budget approved and submit to the public authorities reporting system, which we did. But it was kind of, the basics. And now this budget that I have here is a lot more detail and has increased as we've kind of had a better understanding of what we have coming up in the next year. And just kind of being more realistic about what we're going to be spending and what we have coming in. we're going to speak later on about the Legacy City grant that was just released by the state. But this actually doesn't even really include any of that. The changes that I made was just showing, breaking down the buildings that I think that we'll be selling in the next year. And that would include 104 Washington, 143 Washington, and then the 4 buildings that we're renovating right now for home ownership. And so that would come to about 1,366,000. I'm used to actually doing these things in Spanish, which is even harder. But so that's for income. And then I did add an anticipated loan that, I applied for both a bridge loan through the Leviticus Fund, which would be specifically for those 4 buildings that we have under renovation. But then I also learned that we could apply for an EIDL loan, which is one of the tools being made available through the SBA for disaster relief. And
Oh.
so I applied because it was a fairly easy application. And those are, they're basically 2.75% fixed rate loan for 30 years. And to cover operating. My understanding is the only thing that you can't use it for is acquisition of real estate. And so those are much better terms than the bridge loan I was applying for from Leviticus, although it's maybe going to be necessary to have both at this point. But we could repay them through the proceeds from the sales of these properties.
The Leviticus, was there an interest rate? What was the interest rate on that one?
It was like 5.35, I think was the interest rate. And then there are like commitment fees, which the EIDL loan doesn't have. It has a minimal application fee. We've already kind of incurred some fees with Leviticus because they have an outside company that does like a cost certification and like a plan cost review and analysis of the actual construction, scope and financing and so forth.
Okay.
But yeah, the EIDL loan doesn't come with all of those attachments. I don't know if we'll be approved, but it's possible that we'll be approved for a $500,000 loan. So I included that in the budget, one of those, but it's possible we could do both of them, and the board would obviously have to approve that.
Yeah.
And so I also included on the top is like a just leftover enterprise grant that we'll be getting probably in this fiscal year, and other grants that'll come through this new state program, or income related to that program. And then I put for expenses all of the we're applying for, or we're in contract for these 3 lots on Lander Street. So that's a cost to us. And then all of the stabilization and renovation is, 1.4 million essentially I have here. Additional costs for the demolition of 44 South Miller I have on it separately. We do have 120,000 in grant money, but it's gonna be a lot more than that because we're not doing a full renovation. We're doing interior only and then doing stabilization of the shell.
Gotcha.
And then the other, just our general operating expenses are pretty much the same. I increased the employee benefits slightly. So then we come out with net operating income of 253,000.
Okay. So does anybody want to comment on the numbers? No? All righty. We need to approve.
Lisa,
We
I'm
still
sorry, I was just, going back between 21 and 22, the operating expenses is a huge difference. The total operating expenses. I'm trying to figure out what that delta is. Right, if I'm looking at 21, right, I got a 1.8.
Right.
number, and then I'm looking at 361 on 22. I'm just trying to compare it side by side with the operating.
So I think then this is like this very reduced format that they use for Paris reporting. So it doesn't break things down very well. I think it's because of the construction.
Okay.
The amount of construction that just kind of falls under other. And that, yeah, because that doesn't include that also, that 1.4 million in 21 includes a lot of the other expenses that are broken out in the 2022. So insurance is where we pay a lot of money in insurance. I have it as 90,000 for 2022, which is based on, what we currently pay.
Okay, so the 21 tab operating expenses is inclusive of real estate and the operating expenses. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And everything, everything
Yeah.
except for like salaries and
Yeah, I got it.
office supplies.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. My eye went to that 361 on the 22 tab, and I'm like, big difference from the 1.8 and 21, but I got it now. Thank you.
Alrighty. We still have a quorum, so let's, I'll take a motion to approve the 22 budget.
I'll make that motion. However, I have a concern that neither David or Paul are here. So we can make that motion and then have a discussion, but that's my concern.
Okay, do I have a second on the motion?
I agree with Ali. I think they need to weigh in on this.
Yeah, I think, let's get a second on the table and then we'll have the discussion.
I'll make the second.
Thank you. All right, discussion. I kind of agree. We've relied on David and Paul with the numbers. And if they're not here, I think that's important for them to weigh in. Are we causing any problems by putting off a vote for a month, Jen?
No, I mean, this is really just for our own internal purposes. We already approved the official budget that was submitted to Paris.
Gotcha.
It's just for the board's understanding of, the financial situation.
Okay.
We can table the motion, Lisa, and have them look at it, and also Todd, who came in as a controller, take a look at it also for the next meeting, if you like.
I think that's a great idea. If you can get any specifics over to Todd, we should certainly have his input. And then our other accountant, Paul.
Yeah, that's no problem. If you just kind of point out what it is in the email, I'll be able to take it.
Good, thank you. All right, so that'll be tabled till July. Move to table. Anybody move to table? We have to vote.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I'll second it. And Alice, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, we'll bring that up in July. And now let's go on to the properties. House to home is first.
So we're plugging away with the Johnson Street properties, 27 and 43, I believe are, around 70 to 75% complete as of their last requisitions. And I think there's anticipated completion by August or September. And 115 and 150 Lander, which is a separate contractor, started this month with the demo. And they've had some site meetings and things seem to be going well there as well.
Oh, good.
Eric, did you have anything to add? Having been on site?
Sure, I can give a quick, a brief update. 43 Johnston is it's further ahead than 27. It's our closest finishes are going to start there with wood floors and doors. Next week, they're going to be getting delivered. That's completely sheetrocked. So the next inspections for those will be the finish inspections. With 27 Johnston, they will have their rough framing, rough plumbing, and rough electric inspection done probably by the end of the week, and then they're going to have the insulation delivered, and the sheetrock will start as soon as the insulation inspection is complete. And I think at 115 Lander, the main goal was to get the roof, a new roof on there after the demolition, and but that seems to be moving along well, and that's it.
Thank you. All righty, how about the lots? Oh, we got those approved last night on the planning board.
Yes, the subdivision was approved, which I guess we need to notify the church.
Yeah.
And I guess when that's, we get the official paperwork on that, we can move towards closing, purchasing those lots from the church, which they have been patiently awaiting.
Well, we worked at the a good speed. Can't say the same for the church for this past year.
Yeah. Well, so, yeah, so, and then I just wanted to say, like, in thinking about what we're gonna do with these lots, and I also hope that we could also get the adjacent 2 lots that are owned by the city, which would make it 5 contiguous lots. We were discussed, the idea was to do home ownership there, and I was looking at, there's a new funding available through HCR, which was actually a program developed by Madeline, our former director, who it's a program for co-op and condo development. So they pay up to $100,000 per unit to subsidy for condos or co-ops. And so I was thinking, that was something I wanted to look into in general. And I know that with this housing policy framework that was just adopted by the city, that's one of the recommendations that was made to look into that option, as a way of having different levels of home ownership opportunities available for people at different income levels. It's a low barrier entry to home ownership, lower maintenance, lower costs for people. And so it's, I was happy to hear that there was this new source of funding available to develop that. And I've, talked to CPC, possibly be a lender as well. So I would like to continue to look into that option and see, what the costs would be and so forth.
Yeah, those new initiatives sound great. I think that would be something we could really get our heads around.
Yeah.
Okay, how about, do we own 151 Liberty?
So the city owns 151 Liberty and we own 10 Chambers.
Oh, okay, got it.
And so we had discussed doing some kind of joint marketing or figuring out if one entity would sell one property to the other. And which of those entities, whether it would be us or the city, to combine them as one sale. And, we were waiting on the remediation of the property, especially 151 Liberty. The work has been complete, but there's still a legal process that has to happen. And I think we were waiting on the city to find out like how they want to handle that in terms of how to transfer the property.
And Corporation Counsel, her recommendation is to wait to have any discussions until we know what the legal framework looks like, what the environmental easement looks like. So,
Okay.
That's a recommendation. I think we could have other discussions ahead of time, but we tend to go with her recommendations because they're the most conservative and therefore usually right. So.
Darn it. Sorry, I'm just carrying a child and forgetting my paper as we go. Okay, so we need to continue work on that. Got it. Now, 104 Washington, any updates from Mr.
I just saw him yesterday and they're waiting for their IDA decision. Which I think, I can't remember when he said the meeting was, either late this week or
Maybe today. Yeah. It's sometime late this week, I think, either today or tomorrow, maybe.
Thursday. Yeah. I think he said Thursday. So that'll be a big step forward if that's approved.
Yeah, we had talked last month about having a timeline so that this thing gets moving and keeps moving. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, goodness. All right. Is there anything else that we could be working on or he could be working on while he's waiting for these approvals? I don't know if all his money's tied up in that IDA or what.
I asked him that. It seemed like everything was contingent on him getting that, which it's I guess a matter of timing of when that will be approved, or if there's anything that needs to be changed. But he said that he was always willing to come to our meeting. We can request, that we get more of a clear timeline.
Well, we can request it or we can design it, just sit down with him and, this is what kind of stuff we're going to. And I realize some of it's out of his hands, but some of it isn't, as we know, and through past experience. But I just want to make sure this keeps moving along. So maybe a discussion, whether he needs to come to the board or can sit down with you or me and say, okay, what are you doing? Where are you going? What's your timeline? Let's figure this out and then get it on paper.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to have to sign off because this one needs to go down. Do we have nothing else to vote on? If you don't mind, guys, I'm going to have to call it quits. And if you will continue, Jennifer.
Sure.
Okay, I'm really sorry, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
I think she warned us when we switched to Wednesdays that this was going to be conflict.
So Joe, we can just give an update on things. We won't be able to take any action. And it's not an official,
Right.
forum meeting right now, but you can update the rest of the board where we are on the status and staff, where we are on the remaining items.
Okay, so so 143 Washington, there isn't really anything else since last meeting. We did extend the application period for 39 South Miller and 38 Lander to June 1st. However, we did not receive any applications. And now with this new funding source available, the staff is thinking that we could, at least for 39 South Miller, we could use that building in this new program. But we don't have any applications to review because we didn't receive any. And we can, revisit that next time. The NCLB pipeline and inventory I sent to everyone because it was mentioned that we kind of, board members wanted to have a better sense of what we have, what we own, and what projects we're working on, and what we kind of have planned. I don't know if people had a chance to look at that or if there are questions.
No, Jen, I want to say thank you. It's a good document. It gives the board the flavor, if you would, of where we stand.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jen, I have a couple of questions. I just want to sort of get my head around the Lander Street situation. The church, it says that we have executed purchase and sale agreements, so we haven't closed on those yet, right?
Yeah, because we were waiting for the subdivision process to be complete so that we could actually purchase them.
All right, and now that that's complete, what's the timeline to close?
I guess, this just got approved last night at the planning board meeting. So
Yeah, what we can do is talk to the church. I think they had counsel, if I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went back and forth with them. We're waiting. So we'll reach out to them right away on the closing and provide you, Jennifer, and the board with a date that after we talk to them, but it should be soon. I mean,
There's no barriers to closing though, right? Other than, the subdivision, that was the only thing holding it up, right?
but we'll just look at the title report again just to make sure. Kind of don't have it in front of me
there
now.
was
But
well, the other big issue is that in order for the church, as a church.
oh
there's-
yeah, that's right. On that part, I don't know where they are on that. They have to go to the state, to the attorney general, and to the court to get approval. I know they were doing that. I'm not sure they actually got the approval yet, but we'll follow up with them immediately and see where they are.
All right, and then on the 41 and 43, it says that the city still owns those, right? And hopefully they'll be transferred. Are we expecting them to be transferred to the land bank?
I think the city council was positive about it as a concept because it's 2 lots, but they're kind of small. And so I can't see a better use of them than adding them to this project.
And then the idea for this is to develop affordable housing, right? Townhouses?
Affordable home ownership, yeah. Hope, something that looks similar to what is there, but I was saying like we could possibly break it up into like a condo or co-op type structure. Or it could be what we've, more of what has been there. It's like just a 2 or 3 family townhouse.
So is this in the city's pipeline? Are they taking action on this? Do we have a timeline for them to take action? Has it been put before them? Where does it stand now?
No, I think whenever the land bank is ready, a recommendation to our office, and we're happy to put it on. Remember in July and August, there's only 1 meeting a month, so we could make the next July meeting.
Okay, I'm only asking this because, it's a big hole in the ground over there now. It'd be nice to see something there. So is there any way that we can, develop a plan for this and move this thing forward?
Yeah, I think now that we.
I mean, plan is the wrong word. I mean, a timeline, Jen, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, now that we have the subdivision and we'll find out how soon we can close, because there could be a big delay in the AG approval that the church needs. But, you know, we know that we have the subdivision. Now there's some additional funding being made available for home ownership. We can start piecing that together, you know, in the next few months.
I don't see this happening quickly, Kevin. I think it's gonna be sometime with the AG in the state, and then we purchase, and then we gotta figure out, I mean, what do we wanna do? Do we have a design we want there? Do we have an RFP out there, which could take some time?
Yeah, that's my concern, right? Because I've heard horror stories about nonprofits waiting for the AG approval on land sales. I mean, my information's a few years old.
Sometimes it can be long, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining because everything got worse, I'm imagining that got worse too. You know, so.
Start a design process before that, you know, we can wait until.
We could do it in parallel, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends, Kevin. Sometimes like they're in touch with the AG's office and sometimes they're quick and sometimes they sit on it forever, so.
Yeah, but I guess my concern is less us, it's that the church has to move this forward, right?
Yes, yeah, part of the deal was that they will move it forward.
Based on a little bit I've seen about how they move, it's not quickly. So, you know, this thing could go on forever.
They are
right?
anxious to get some income from the sale, though.
They are. Okay, so there's some motivation on their part, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully.
We'll reach out right away. We'll reach out tomorrow.
All right, great.
We had discussed maybe doing some kind of a design studio with like an architectural program to look at designing something, but we can look at other options as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Jan. You guys, of all the things we talk about, I talk a lot about this because it's a new development finally in Newburgh. And I just think that there's a opportunity to do a lot of things with this small project. You know, sort of like a lead the way kind of project, like we should rethink, you know, what housing should look like in Newburgh. And this might be a small scale opportunity to do that. So I just would encourage us to be, you know, thoughtful and creative about what goes there and what it looks like, and, you know, to really think this through. And, you know, I love the history of Newburgh, but I think we sort of tilt into some other directions as well. So anyway, I'm just, you know, asking that, you know, I think that design process is good, and be more creative and thoughtful about how we develop a totally vacant property. I think we have a lot of options here.
Yeah, Diana is definitely on board for that, I think. We're lucky to have Diana on staff to help guide us in that as well.
Okay.
So then just to discuss them in more detail, that we the Legacy City funding is this new funding that is targeted. It's specifically for New York State land banks. And it is under Madeline in the distressed housing program that she oversees at HCR. And this is the 25 million that was allocated in this state budget that just passed in April. And so the program is essentially provides, it's essentially our house to home program. It's modeled after that. And it's a home ownership program. It could be for 1 to 4 family homes. And it's the subsidy from the state is $95,000 a unit. So if it's a 2-family home, you would get 95,000 times 2, which I believe is 190,000. And you can do up to 10 properties at a time, and you can do up to 3 rounds. And so CPC would be, the Community Preservation Corporation would be the private lender in the deal. So they would provide the rest of the money needed. And you know, whatever other sorry, Christopher Feldman is joining. Whatever else other funding we need, but it's a traditional participatory loan program, which is based, you know, where there's a government entity that provides a very low interest loan combined with a private loan. And the other aspect of it is that they want us to work with minority developers. And so we would transfer, the idea is that you transfer the ownership of the property to a minority developer at the time of construction and loan closing, and they would then do the development. And it could be, you know, a newer developer that is trying to, you know, start or, you know, get more of a experience in development. But specifically minority developers, they don't have to have MBE certification. And then CPC also has a program that they launched this year called CPC Access, and that they have a lot of different supports for minority developers, you know, different financing that they can help out with. So, you know, initially we were thinking, well, we'll be the developer. That's what we're already doing with our house to home program. But this is an opportunity to help minority developers kind of break into the market. And that's, you know, kind of lacking in the area. And the partnership can look many different ways, like depending on the experience of the developer that we wind up working with. If, you know, if they need additional support, we can, you know, structure the partnership however it's needed. And so we have at the moment about 6 properties that we think would work in this program, that we've already done stabilization work on. You know, most of them are on land. There's 38, what do we say? 59 and 63 lander, 136 lander, possibly 128 Du Bois and 140 Chambers. And what was the other one? Help. What's the other one?
138 on 136 lander. I think you
mentioned that.
mentioned 39
39
South
South
Miller.
Miller. Yeah.
39 South Miller.
Jen, can I just interrupt for 1 second? I have to go pick up my 8-year-old, so that's why Chris is on now.
Okay.
So, I'm on daddy duty this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Here.
But Chris will answer any questions. You can get me on my cell, Chris, if you need me.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Sorry, guys.
No
Good seeing
problem.
everyone.
So, so that's this new program. So we do have 6 buildings that we currently own that we could easily start with. And we're also applying for home funding through the county as like gap financing to make it, you know, to make it even more affordable for people. And so then the buildings would be sold to, you know, priority given to City of Newburgh residents, 80% AMI, which is lower than, you know, market rate, and people who have experienced, you know, people who come from a race that where they've experienced mortgage discrimination and other forms of displacement. So it's, you know, the same thing that we're doing now currently with our house to home program. So we're very well positioned to apply, you know, for this and kind of start moving forward with it. But we want to start doing outreach to local developers that might be interested in partnering. Any questions? Does that sound good? This is the first type of specific to land bank funding that's been made available since we, you know, since we started, since the HE money, you know, that was made available is now gone. So this is, you know, a big win for land banks.
It's a quick question, Jen. And you said the funding goes towards minority developers. Have we been able to identify minority contractors to do anything for the land bank?
Yeah, I mean, right now, one of, you know, the buildings that we're renovating on land, 115 and 150 Lander, or working with the Latino contractor who is a potential partner on this based on his experience He has, you know, like 30 years experience in the field.
He's minority contract, not an MWBE. I know, even though that's not required for this, as you were saying.
Right.
He's just minority contract. Are there any other ones we've identified?
Like a few, but not anyone we've had a conversation with. And I think that, yeah, there are more like contractors that that might be kind of at a point where they're ready to take the next step to be a developer that we could support. But not, you know, not a huge amount.
No, I mean, this has been a challenge from day one. I know when we first went through this, there were just none in the area. I don't know if that's changed.
I think it has to some extent, and but not a huge extent, which is why, you know, these types of programs are starting up to try to encourage that more. And you know, because a big barrier is having the equity and the liquidity, you know, to bring to these projects, and that's why CPC's developed their program to try to fill those gaps. They can provide pre-development funding, bridge loans, and so forth, and credit, yeah, help people with credit issues. So we want to do like, just kind of get the word out and, you know, send out information to our contacts, our email lists on social media. And I've already had conversations with different people to get the word out, to see who really maybe is able to step up at this point.
Yeah, maybe this is something for that strategic planning discussion meeting we intend to have, and sort of what our role should be, you know, in this kind of endeavor. I mean, it's been difficult, I know. I've gone through the same search myself, and they're not easy to find, but it's certainly a worthwhile effort. So I don't know exactly what role we should play in this, but it seems like we have a lot of opportunity for people that do this work. And so I'm not sure what kind of effort and how we should get involved in this, but it seems like we should be doing something. Because the millions of dollars that we spent over the years, some portion of this should be going to these groups.
Right.
So I don't want to just leave it open. I'd like for us to develop a plan of action, maybe too strong, but figure out like how we're going to address this issue. Like I said, is it part of the strategic planning process? Is it an internal discussion? But, you know, we should have a solid plan to address it.
Right. I think that, I mean, my idea was to kind of do a lot of outreach and see who comes forward and who we can possibly work with, and that it will look different depending on who that is. You know, if we find someone who's qualified, and they do have to be like a professional that's able to take it on, and, you know, if it's a contractor, someone who does good work and all of that, and we could form what the relationship is going to be based on who it is and what they and need. And, you know, we could play a larger role if they need more support with the development.
Right. And I'm not just thinking about development, but we still do demolition work, right? There's the abatement work that we do. There's a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah, overall. I was just thinking for this particular program where it's.
No, I'm thinking beyond that.
Okay, yeah.
In general, that, you know, we should make a conscious effort to involve these groups, women and other minorities as well.
Definitely, yes.
Like I said, I just don't want to leave it out there like, you know, it shows up in the meetings as Kevin suggested. We, you know, I like it to actually be.
No, I think it should be built into the strategic plan. I mean, similarly to, you know, diversifying the board and, you know, being more inclusive in that way as well, as, you know, can be a conversation.
All right. So whoever's taking the minutes will note that Kevin has strongly recommended that we find a way to address this, right? Just trying to be of assistance.
Yeah. So I guess there isn't anything to vote on. We're just moving forward with this Legacy City funding and moving towards the application process. And I've been speaking to CPC over the last couple of days about it. And they think that we would probably be one of the first applicants for the project, for the program, because we're kind of already, you know, we're already so far along. The other update is about 44 South Miller. We've been, as you know, working on trying to get a demolition plan, and we did meet with the engineer on site, and he is working on a plan that involves, how to do the demolition safely, the internal demolition. And we will hopefully have something soon, and therefore would have an RFP once we have a plan in place that we can put out there for demolition contractors. And the other thing on the agenda was our creative placemaking. I added a new topic, the creative placemaking, marketing and design as a catch-all. We have a few updates there. Diana can take it from here.
Sure. Jen, you didn't tell me you were going to have a new section.
I was like, where to put it all together.
But yes, so AVIVs for 2020 has wrapped up finally. There's still a few projects that are lingering, but officially that season is over. But we're still waiting for a project by Vernon, who is going to be installed. We're working with the contractor, and Eric is helping us coordinate at one of our buildings under construction, and it's going to be a construction scrim that's suspended on the facade of the building. So that's something to look forward to. And another one of the artists as well as Lerner is developing their project, but the other three have been completed. We also did a partnership with AIV, with the Boys and Girls Club and Dia Art Foundation, called Studio in the Park, and it was at Audrey Carey Park. Vernon will actually be doing 2 sessions this week, tomorrow, Thursday, and on Sunday. And it's a really great opportunity for the Land Bank, essentially just to extend our AIV program to really target, the kids in the neighborhood, and to work outdoors in the park, and to have Dia Art Foundation support it all. So it was really great sort of influx of art into our community and our neighborhood. And I also wanted to introduce, as part of this meeting, Emily Levinson. She's our wonderful fellow from MIT who's interning with us this summer to help us develop this interactive map. And I'm actually going to hand it off to her she'll only be here for 6 weeks, and we're almost halfway through, but we're steadily developing this amazing interactive map through the ArcGIS story maps online. And Emily, can you share your screen and sort of walk us through a little bit? We have a draft of what we've been working on, to sort of share with you what we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Diana. Hi, everyone. My name's Emily, and I'm a rising senior in urban studies and planning. And it's just been a joy interning with the Land Bank. Actually, for the last few months, I started talking with Diana and learning about what you all do back in February. So I can share my screen. And can everybody see this okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Yes, so what Diana and I have been talking about is developing this new homepage for the website. And I'm building it using ArcGIS Story Maps, which is a web platform that makes it super easy to integrate interactive maps. That's kind of its big draw. So one of the exciting pieces of this will be that right off the bat at the start, we can have a map of the properties that the Land Bank has for sale, although it's taking a moment to load. There we go. So basically, this will be super easy to update with anything that's for sale, where people can see it in its geographic context, click on a property that's for sale, see some basic information, zoom in, see photos of the property, have some type of link that pulls them to, the deeper information about the property that exists. So then we can change colors, you can add new pins, change what photos there are, what text there is. And everything about this is fully customizable. And when people visit, they'll be able to, search for a particular place if they wanted to, or see in the legend a list of all the properties that are available. So then we'll also have a map for people to see all of the properties that are in progress and all of the properties that have been successfully transferred all in one place. So once again, this map is fully customizable. So changing colors, size, shape of the pins, anything you wanted, people can move around. And then one exciting piece is that they can click on any particular property and just see a whole range of information. And we can choose which categories of information we want here. But right now, you'd be able to see what work the Land Bank did, when it was acquired, what type of property it is. all of these ones are in progress, so they don't have those purchaser or closing date data points yet. And then here we have all of the properties that have been successfully transferred. So in this map, you can just see a list of everything that the land bank has worked on and passed on. And then in this more detailed map, you can once again see all of that detailed spreadsheet information. So like the date that it was acquired, the closing date, all that. And you can zoom in, search for anything in particular you're interested in, like and say, oh, well, what's around here, and see what's there. So other pieces that we're going to show are, we can have separate maps for all of the different programs that the land bank has worked on. So the various RUPCO projects, Habitat for Humanity, all of that will be really accessible. And then another piece is that I'm going to be creating, or have already started creating, these maps that show a little bit more information about the land bank's impact. So the nice thing about these maps is it's taking data that we've had in spreadsheets and putting it in its geographic context in a way that's hard to see when it's just a list of data points in a spreadsheet. So for instance, this map shows all of the properties sized by how many units they're creating, and then the shading is based on how many affordable units there are. So these bigger bubbles are properties that have a lot more total units, and then the darker ones have more properties that are affordable. So you can see in the legend, total housing units, and then darker is more affordable. The next one is the neighborhood investment. So this is a heat map that shows where all of the money that the land bank has invested is going in the city. So this is great because you can just see super clearly, most of it is in this North of Broadway neighborhood. And if you wanted to get a more granular view, you can zoom in too. And then the third map here shows all of the tax revenue generated. So you can see where exactly in the city this tax revenue is most being generated by land bank properties. So then another interesting part is that we're going to be able to show all of our property stories on a map. So if people want to learn more about a particular property, we're hopefully going to have a lot of these here where they can say, oh, I wonder what's going on here at 39 Johnston, and then read all about the history of that property and how it's been transferred, you know, what is the history of this place. And so this map, you can click on the pins on the map on the right to see a particular property. Once you're on it, you can zoom in to any of the photos there. And if there's multiple, it'll be a little slideshow that you can click through. So really, ArcGIS Story Maps just has so many possibilities for the different types of information and media that you can put into it. So it's been fun for me to get to figure out all of those different ways that I can tell more of your story as the land bank. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to walk through any of these pieces in further detail or just answer any questions that you have.
So Emily's been working very hard at this, and this is still in draft form, but I think it would be great to, if there's only a few board members left on this meeting, but maybe Jen, we can schedule a time that if other board members are interested, we can share with them, and if they have any input as well as to what they would love to see on this map, or, you know, what kind of, knowing sort of what the maps are capable of and all of the data that we have collected over these years, sort of what would be the best things to highlight. We've been, you know, organizing these largely around what we normally provide in our yearly reviews, but also some of the data that has not slipped through the cracks, but is less tangible because it doesn't necessarily translate well in those types of media that we've put out each year. So yeah, it would be great just to have the board input. Staff has also been very supportive and giving inputs in the most recent meetings. So we're excited to have these drafts.
Emily, I appreciate the work that went into this. You can see it's very detailed. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're very excited. I think this is going to be a great way for us to share our story and our impact.
When do we expect it to be final? Adam?
So we're working on, Emily will be here till like the first or second week of July. And so at that point, we'll have a workable draft that I can publish essentially, or we'll work to publish together to be the landing page of our website. So it's very close, almost a month away. She's working on it. Yeah, 40 hours a week was her internship. So.
And it seems very user friendly. So.
Yeah, it'll just sort of be an interface now that even when people call with Allison having, what's available for, what's land bank properties available, how do I get the application, et cetera. Yep. It's just directly to the website. You can see all the for sale, you can click on it. If someone has a question about something we've developed or wants to know more about the REPCO, it's a map, it's something that's visually accessible and also has all of the information sort of built in behind it because of the way that the GIS data points are able to just geographically map all of that. So
yeah, and even us board members will point to this as well.
Great. Yes. Yeah. So again, if there's something that you've been thinking about, like, oh, how do I want to know this about the property, just let us know so that we can figure out a way to integrate it. That'd be wonderful.
I just wanted to say, as somebody who looks at a lot of programs like this and things like that, I think the thing that strikes me is a lot of times when I see something like this, it's like one map and then you have to like find all the layers. Right. And I think this is really good because you just scroll down and the layers appear like, oh, are you looking for this? Well, here's the information. Are you looking for that? It's not me becoming familiar with the system and the data points that are available. It's no, I just scroll down and there's the next set, which I just wanted to point out is really great.
Yeah, Emily introduced this interface to us. I similarly have the same thing, Christopher, where I thought it was going to be a map with layers and sort of had to toggle and search, and who's going to know how to use, you have to sort of have built-in training to use that type of mapping. But this Story Maps is absolutely amazing tool and really so excited to implement it.
I mean, the only one thing I thought would be maybe interesting is if you can overlay like some of those aerial GIS maps, but that might take away from, some of those heat maps and stuff. So, maybe don't touch it, but,
No, that's good. Maybe we'll do the aerials or the satellite imagery on like, say the property map or, we have a few different, a few different bases. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is all we have for today. We obviously are not doing executive session. We didn't have anything, I don't think, anyway. The next meeting will be July 21st at 3 p.m. Does anybody have anything to add, I should say, before we close? We need a motion, or we can't do that?
We can make a motion, we just can't vote on it.
So do I just declare that we are adjourned?
Yeah, or accidentally hit leave or something.
Okay. So enjoy the rest of your weeks and we'll see you next month, if not sooner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.